Online Cultures and Intercultural Communication, Part 2. A digital presentation of Jones and Hafner's Understanding Digital Literacies, 2012, Chapter 8. Presented by Teresa Shin and Marcia Anderson. Let's look at online cultures, the technological affordances and constraints of media, the cultures of use that grow up around these affordances and constraints, and media ideologies. Online cultures can be seen as a discourse system that develop in online affinity spaces. The technological affordances and constraints is the kind of message that can be constructed using a particular digital medium, and it has its affordances and constraints. So, for example, email and chat afford communication through text over a distance, as well as email can be a constraint to interaction. What is culture of use? Cultures of use is developed around media, which shapes how people understand and use them. The affordance and constraints of a particular digital medium have an obvious effect on the kinds of messages that can be constructed. Media ideologies. And this refers to a set of beliefs about communicative technologies with which users and designers explain perceived media structure and meaning. This cannot be understood in isolation due to the fact that media ideologies can change when there is a regular usage of a new medium. There is also a difference in terms of the generational perspective. And an example of this is, many years ago, people would use a telephone to break up with someone. Today, breakup is done via email or texting. So, we move on to our next slide, intercultural communication. And here we look at how to create a hybrid third space, how to negotiate online identity, global village. So, what is intercultural communication? Intercultural communication, it's where participants in different discourse systems communicate with one another and accommodate one another's communicative assumptions and expectations. So, if we look at what is the hybrid third space, or how is this created? And it depends on the way in which the participants draw on a variety of cultures with norms and conventions of its own. If we look at how they negotiate their own identity online, this is based on the communities which they form, where they have their shared interests, and where cultures hold no barriers in terms of how they communicate. And if we look at the global village, which we could almost say, it's what they're in, the global village is where the participants, through their interactions, develop awareness of and affinity for others from different cultural groups. According to G. and Hayes, 2012, and Sustine, 2002, as cited by Jones and Hafner, the Internet has failed to provide an open forum where people are able to interact and learn about a variety of different worldviews. What's happening instead is people use it as a tool to seek other like-minded individuals. And Jones and Hafner, they see this as a reinforcement of the existing biases and prejudices of these individuals. And we move into our conclusion. Here we're going to identify What is online affinity space? What are these? But before we do that, let's look at what's online affinity spaces. This is where people can meet, interact, and build relationships and communities. These spaces have the potential to bring people together from diverse cultural backgrounds. And what are some of these spaces? So there's the social networking sites such as Facebook, Twitter. There's also multiple multiplayer, online games, and communities that grow up around blogs and wikis. These spaces often develop their own culture or discourse system. And what this means is the participants, they all think, get things done in a shared way. These spaces are also multilingual. Cultures of use. And this refers to the conventions, norms, and values of using a particular tool that are of common interest to a particular group of users. So the culture of use for a specific tool may differ from different groups of users, and they may have different media ideologies. So to conclude, we could say online cultures can be seen as a discourse system that develop in online affinity spaces and are made up of several different components. Thank you for listening.